It is the third hour of the Vince Coglianese Show. Mike Opelka in for Vince. Honored to be here, thrilled to be here. And we're trying to keep up on everything as there are issues bubbling all over the globe with the two new hostages released today by Hamas, but Joe Biden leaving a presentation to reportedly go to the Situation Room. Now, the more I think about it, that might be some kind of White House code for Joey's got to go to the little president's room, if you know what I'm saying. But maybe not. Maybe he's actually in the Situation Room. I'm sure we'll hear anything and everything that's coming out of the White House before the show is over, especially if Israel decides at just after midnight in Israel right now that if Israel decides it's go time and they're going to go in. There are all kinds of speculations out there about what the fight will be like if Israel decides to go on the ground inside Gaza. So we shall see. We shall see. I think Hamas is really playing a game on these hostages, and we don't know the truth. And you're going to trust Hamas? No, not me. We want to talk about the race for the speakership, since that is a hot topic, obviously. The Speaker of the House, now that we're into, I got to figure out what day this is. Is this day 20? I think it is. I tuned into CNN earlier today, so you didn't have to. And CNN is all about the chaos that they keep talking about. All about the chaos created because we don't have a speaker. Now, I wish we did have a Speaker of the House. I wish the GOP would get its act together. I wish that Matt Gaetz and his crew would have thought about maybe having a unifier picked out before you take out Kevin McCarthy, but we can't turn back time. We're not Cher. So the reality is we're here without a speaker. And the left and their friends in the media are doing everything they can do to use this to beat up on Republicans. And CNN had one of their correspondents, Harry Enton, was in the studio, and he was getting a little mad today. He seemed like he was getting mad when he was hearing that now we've gone so far without a speaker. Here's what happened with him and I think it was Breonna Keeler. He was on with her talking about the fact that there's no speaker.
Yeah, so we're mid-session right now, right? And we've had 20 days since we've had a speaker. The old record mid-session was 2 back in 1820. So we are now 10 times the old record. This is pathetic, the fact that we cannot get a speaker. It's historically pathetic, and it's historically pathetic times 10.
So it's not just pathetic, it's historically pathetic times 10. I had a flashback to the old great movie with Peter Finch, Network.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Yes, Harry Enton channeling Peter Finch's great performance in Network. Harry Enton went on to be prodded by Breonna Keeler to talk about how terrible this is.
This is part of a larger trend of just Congress not getting work done.
That's exactly right. I mean, how many laws have been passed by this Congress and signed into law?
Now, that's an interesting question. Do you judge the quality of a Congress by just the numbers of bills passed? Or do you judge the quality of Congress by the kinds of bills passed? Well, if you're a Democrat, apparently, if you're an extreme liberal, you just want to create more government. And for those of us that like the idea of our government small and our freedoms big, we like to have great bills, but we don't necessarily need a giant buffet of all-you-can-eat government. But again, this Harry Enton seems all wrapped up in, well, how many bills have they passed? That's like saying, how many post offices did you name? I'm okay if Congress doesn't pass a whole lot of bills as long as the bills are good bills. As long as the bills kind of follow the Constitution and turn up the freedom and turn down the government. I'm just saying, but Harry Enton thinks otherwise.
Less than 20. less than 20. And if we go back over the last 50 years and we look at Congresses where you had, divided government, maybe the president was one party, Congress was at least partially run by another, the average to this point is nearly 100. So we're looking at about 1/5 the productivity of what the average Congress would be, even in divided government. So
it's about numbers for him. It's not about quality. This is the thinking. This is the Golden Corral buffet thinking. And I prefer to go to the restaurant that's going to make my meal and make it just for me and make it be the best meal it could be instead of putting up a trough. And I think that's the right way to go. Harry doesn't.
Not necessarily too surprising that we haven't gotten a speaker because this has been a historically unproductive Congress.
Historically unproductive. Again, they're counting how many bills are passed versus what kind of bills are passed. And I think we've kind of lost that in what we expect from our government. Very interesting. Very interesting. On the subject of the Speaker of the House, it looks like the phones are ignited. Let's talk about that. 888-630-9625. Dave in Alexandria is on the phone. Hello, Dave. Welcome to the discussion.
Hey, good afternoon. I wouldn't sweat the fact that we don't have a Speaker of the House for X number of days. We haven't had a president since January 20th of 2021. But, this so-called president that we do have, I'm sure can authorize some sort of emergency aid to Ukraine and or Israel if and when, that time comes. But, I wouldn't sweat the fact that we don't have a speaker. It doesn't, optics-wise, doesn't look great, but come the next election cycle, it will be forgotten.
I hope so, and I think you're correct on that because, as we're 380, maybe it's 379 days away from an election, that is an eternity in politics, and we, the people, tend to be very forgetful when it comes to that subject. So excellent point about the fact that, hey, we haven't had a president, although you intimated that he may be able to put some kind of executive order on the table that would fund the efforts. But I don't think we can do that. But here's my prediction. We're going to connect the dots on this. Here's my prediction that the next move by the Democrats, and watch the language, the next move by the Democrats is going to mock the lack of a speaker and tie it to the war going on. The fact that, let's say, our ammunition stocks are depleted, that's now the fault of the Republicans, not the fault of giving all of the ammunitions to Ukraine or having to then support Israel as well. John Kirby today was asked about it and about our defense inventory, and I think he's bearing my point here.
We also need to make sure we have
oil reserves.
Hang on a second. I'm playing a Kirby clip here. Here's Kirby talking about that.
We also need to make sure we have appropriations to replenish DoD stocks. We have national security interests around the world as well that we have to meet, and we've provided an awful lot out of our inventory. We need to be able to replenish that.
And by not having a speaker, they can now point to the GOP and say, well, we're running out of ammo because of those crazy Republicans and their chaos. So that is a situation I'm betting they're going to point to, Dave. But thank you for your clarity on all this. Ronnie is in Pennsylvania. Hello, Ronnie. Welcome to the Vince Coglianese program. What is on your mind?
Hi, Michael. Hey, I was considering what Israel should actually do. I mean, everyone's waiting, they're leaning forward. We're going to rush into the Gaza Strip and go after Hamas. Maybe the true smart move would be to do like a head fake towards Gaza and go after Hezbollah in the north. That would completely change the whole dynamic.
Well, Hezbollah is a much more difficult opponent. They have a much bigger military, a much bigger budget. I think their budget is about 10 times the size of what Hamas gets from Iran.
Exactly,
And
which is why we hit them by surprise. Israel hits them by surprise, like Hamas did initially. That's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Okay, surprise! Hi, Hezbollah. We're coming for you instead.
there has been there have been some exchanges to the north in across that border with the Hezbollah militants that are there, and 40 of them died, but so did 7 IDF members in the last day or two.
So I don't know if they could pull off a Patton pull out and go 100 miles and attack Bastion, and actually get away with it. But I'm thinking, that looks like the bigger threat to me, not Hamas. It looks like Hezbollah's the one you want to hit.
Yeah, Hezbollah is a much bigger threat than Hamas, but as of right now, Hamas is the one firing all the rockets. We're getting just a few from Hezbollah and a few from the Houthis, which that's disturbing as well. And what is it with people with the letter H in their names? What is it? What are with all these radicals? Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. Let's take out the H's. I'm going to start calling the Democrats the Hemocrats. Maybe then we can see them as the evil that they are. Now someone's going to call and get mad about that. Thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate it. Israel may do that. Israel says they have the capability to fight 2 fronts. They certainly have the vast majority of their military already amassed in the southern border, but Israel is as big as the state of Delaware. It's not a gigantic piece of real estate. Delaware only has 3 counties in it. So it's 90, 100 miles to get some kind of action moved. Greg is on the phone in Lorton, Virginia. Greg, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Thank you very much for taking my call. I have listened to you before, and you do an excellent job, sir. I have to tell you. Excellent.
Thank you, you're kind. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Well deserved. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Israel has to do both. They must destroy Hamas. I'm sorry to say this. It pains me. I don't even know. I can't imagine living over there. But the fact of the matter is, if it takes, destroying Hamas, destroying every member, every adult man, they voted him in. I'm just saying. It's terrible. I don't like to think about it, and then at the same time, they must also destroy Hezbollah. We have to. And they're going to need our support to do so. But
yeah, I'm with you on this. I think this is this is the pivot point in what happens in the future of the Middle East. This right now, the choice between the last democracy and terror groups that are fighting on behalf of Iran and Syria and basically Russia and China. And I think we have to pick a side, and we currently have a wishy-washy leader in there. Thank you very much, Greg, and thank you again for the kind words. I was teeing up the conversation about the speaker and the fight over the speaker, and I have to give you my pick, which I will. But Nick is in Rockville, Maryland. Nick, you've got the floor. What's your thought on the speaker battle?
Awesome. Nice job filling in. I know it's annoying that, we don't have it covered right now, but I would shy away, and I would encourage people to push back on this. Of what's embarrassing is Nancy Pelosi saying, if you want to know what's in the bill, you'll have to read it.
Yeah.
That's not legislation. That's not leadership. That's totalitarianism. And to bring it up to speed, even, we also don't have members of our caucus that are supporting the Hamas. And that's just ridiculous. That's embarrassing. Our stuff is a bit of a pain. And to leap it forward, I would love to see Byron. I think, I like the way he pushes back. You see, he won't let somebody dictate the narrative, which I think is great. I don't really care about the fundraising, because the fundraising is what got us to where we are now. That's part of the problem. So get somebody fresh, somebody who's a conservative, somebody who's nice and raw and has the energy and is not going to get pushed around, and, let's just go that path.
I respect your pick, and I will give mine just around the corner, Nick. Thank you very much for those thoughts, and great point about I'd rather have a transparent fight than the sneaky Pete stuff that Nancy Pelosi has been doing. And in some ways, I suspect she's been engineering from her backbench position of late. It is 27 minutes after 5. Mike Opelka in for Vince Coglianese on the Vince Coglianese Show. We're having too much fun off air. I wish I could tell you everything, but we're going to have some fun with Sheila Jackson Lee, who has a potty mouth and got caught. And it's always fun to have fun with potty mouths like Sheila Jackson Lee, who projects her holier-than-thou image. So we'll have some fun with that just around the corner. But the phones have been hot all day, so let's make sure we take care of as many as we can. Joe is in Woodbridge. Hey, Joe, welcome to the Vince Coglianese Show. What's on your mind?
Always good talking to you. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course, sir.
So I always hear a lot on why Israel should destroy Hamas. I'm sorry, I always hear so much about, that they should go in and destroy Hamas, but I don't hear much on, why should they? And my take is that each terrorist attack that Israel suffers, and I'm 60 years old, has gotten worse and worse. And as bad as this last one was, it will pale in comparison to what comes next, which will be a nuclear device that Iran has been allowed to acquire by a weak Biden and Obama presidency. They will funnel it to their surrogates, Hamas, Hezbollah, and if Israel and the United States do not take out and completely destroy Iranian influence in the region, and I'm talking about Hamas, I'm talking about Hezbollah, and I'm talking about going into Syria. If we do not completely take out Iranian influence and then take care of Iran, I fear Israel will suffer an even threat.
I think you're correct, sir. And today, by the way, 1998, on this date, Benjamin Netanyahu and Yasser Arafat signed a, quote, land for peace agreement. And we know how well that worked out. The land for peace agreement was signed on this date in 1998. The terrorists don't want peace. They want annihilation of the Jews. We got to take care of business. Opelka in for Coglianese on the Vince Coglianese Show on WMAL. It is 5:35 on a Monday, October 23rd, and my goodness, in the 60s today, in the 70s tomorrow. I hope you're getting outside. I really do. Mike Opelka, as I said, in for Vince Coglianese today. Take advantage of these days. Maybe turn off the cable news networks for a minute. Just keep the radio in your ears or the WMAL app. It's a great app. And take us with you on a walk. Lower your stress level as you get updated. Speaker of the House discussion we have to have. We have to discuss who will surface now from this latest battle. I was a big Jim Jordan fan. I like Jim Jordan's pit bull attacks and his relentlessness. But I guess a lot of people weren't convinced that that was the right thing to do. I heard people say, well, you'll take him off his mission to expose all of the corruption. People are capable of doing a couple things at one time. And then there were some that weren't happy. And I've been a big fan of Byron Donalds for a long time. I do a lot of fill-in work on radio around the country. And one of the stations that I regularly appear on is in Fort Myers, Florida, which is the reddest district in Florida. It is absolutely the reddest district in the state of Florida. And in that spot, Byron Donalds is their elected representative. And he is just a rock star down there. And I think it would be an amazing and wonderful thing if the GOP gave us a black Speaker of the House in the body of Byron Donalds. And he's a guy who comes to government with business experience as well. He's a guy who comes very, very deep business experience. He came out of the banking world. so he understands it. I go back to Byron Donalds talking to the media about all of the Biden crime family stuff, because he's seen all the stuff that came out of this. So Byron Donalds, not that long ago, was addressing the press on what has come out of all the investigations. And this is just epic stuff here.
First, what we're seeing here, what we're witnessing with the Biden family, frankly, is just a web of concealment, of deception. A lot of people would say corruption. But let's be very clear. You have this many companies involved, this velocity of transactions, size of transactions. Like my colleagues have said, this is not how normal businesses operate. I had the ability with Chairman Comer and other members of the committee to go over to the Treasury building and review documents. And having read those documents, one thing became pretty crystal clear, that there were many people who had serious questions about the transactions and about the velocity of these transactions, and they either get very, very deep into concealment, hiding money, shifting money, and for the purpose, we don't know, because one thing everybody in this room and the American people definitely know is that the Biden family doesn't really have a business. There is no business structure around this family except politics. And since Joe Biden has spent decades in the Senate, served 8 years as vice president, and is now president of the United States, and the family's getting money from various countries and foreign businesses through various shell companies and this web of LLCs. I mean, guys, you in the press, this is easy pickings. I'm giving you Pulitzer stuff here.
I think he's got great clarity, and he is a very smart dude. And I think if you want my pick for speaker out of the 9 candidates, I'm certainly hoping that Byron Donalds will be among the top choices, even if they have to winnow that list down a little bit to get to a couple others. What do you think? Who would you like to see be the Speaker of the House? 888-630-9625. In the time we have remaining, it'd be great to hear your choices. I'm solidly behind Byron Donalds because, I would just like to show the Democrats how it's done, because they're always checking boxes. Well, you know, we have Karine Jean-Pierre. She checks 4 boxes. We have Kamala Harris. She checks a couple of boxes too. And now we just have a guy who earned it. He just happens to check a couple of boxes. We have a guy who's earned the speakership. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's what we see. We'll know very soon if this is going to go on for a while. I'm hopeful. Curious, but hopeful. And maybe it's not. Now, in terms of giving you a bad example of a House representative, someone who I think really is an embarrassment to the Democratic Party, I point to Sheila Jackson Lee, or She-Jack, as we like to call her. Sheila Jackson Lee is someone who likes to play the holier-than-thou card. She's always in front of a microphone, either in a committee meeting or in the House, and speechifying. And for example, she was talking about George Soros, who she really likes, maybe even loves George Soros. I don't know. But she actually said this earlier this year.
Let me ask you this. First of all, we have accusatory commentary of Soros DAs. Let us not put an individual that is not here, a contributing American, and jeopardize his life for always throwing his name out in the most ugliest of way. I am offended by that. Mr. Soros does not deserve that. He is an American and a patriot, and he also comes from a minority community, one might say.
Oh, there you go, checking a box. George Soros checking a box, but she called George Soros an American and a patriot. He's also a convicted currency manipulator. He's also a guy who envisions a one world government. But that She-Jack just wants to get out there and say great things. Like she wanted to support affirmative action. And after the Supreme Court ruled earlier this year about affirmative action, she took to the House floor
today to join my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus, and will continue to work with them and proceed to analyze the very wrong-headed decision that was made by the United States Supreme Court on the question of affirmative action. I thank the gentlelady from Florida, the gentleman from New York, and certainly the gentleman from Nevada in their leadership. But I rise today as a clear recipient of affirmative action, particularly in higher education.
So Sheila Jackson Lee is claiming that she is a recipient of affirmative action, that maybe she wouldn't have gotten to where she is had it not been for some of the equity moves that affirmative action put into place. I wonder. Well, this weekend we got some audio of Sheila Jackson Lee berating her staff. And I'm old enough to remember that when Joe Biden took office, he talked about his administration. Now, of course, that doesn't count for the House. It counts for his White House. But he was saying that if he caught wind of anybody talking down to someone who worked for them, he would see them out. He would make sure they were fired, so fired. So Sheila Jackson Lee doesn't seem to subscribe to the Joe Biden thinking when it comes to treatment of employees. This was the phone message from She-Jack. She certainly needed some bleeps.
Regarding something that was over at Duncan Tail. Where is it? What date was it?
All from yesterday. Jerome took it upstairs. I'd have to call him. He took it up when I switched out the papers. I'll call him as soon as you get here.
I don't want you. I want you to brain. I want you to have read it. I want you to say, Congresswoman, it was such and such date. That's what I want. That's the kind of staff that I want to have. So some did it, and I don't have the information. Nobody sent me the information. I need to ensure my schedule. And, if Boo-Boo did it, did it. And nobody offered, okay? Nothing. I gave it to you. Your job was to get it on the calendar, imprint it in your brain, or send me the information back saying, Congresswoman, I made sure that the Ovi Duncan Tell event that you gave me for so-and-so date at 7.
The bleeps we ran out of, it goes on and on. Now, had a Republican member of Congress spoken to a female staffer, I wonder if that Republican would be asked to step down or would be facing ethics charges. I'm just saying. This is entertaining to me. It's a little bit of Schadenfreude. You know, the German word for pleasure we get at the misfortune of others. That's a moment of Schadenfreude, a big moment of Schadenfreude, and I'm not embarrassed about it. All right, your votes for speakership coming in. Let's see what's coming in on the phones. Roger in Manassas is on the phone. Hello, Roger. You have a suggestion for us?
Yeah, I'd like to see Trey Gowdy come back in.
Well, Trey Gowdy probably didn't want to take the pay cut. If I'm not
right. Yeah, he's a good attorney.
But he's making a big check at Fox. I think he's getting a big check from the Fox network. I like Trey Gowdy. I don't know if he would be the uniter that I think the GOP needs, but he's certainly a conservative. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it. Let's bounce over to Brookville and Alex. Alex, welcome to the program. You got a thought for us?
Thank you. I do. I believe that Byron Donalds would be the best choice ever. I think he's a uniter. I think he speaks his piece. I think he is just an extremely, extremely articulate individual in how he delivers his message. And I think he takes no guff from anybody, and I think he would deserve to be in that position. He also would probably make some things happen, which is something that the Republicans have not done well recently.
Now, Alex, let me ask you the question, because I'm a Byron Donalds guy. I like him. I think he'd be a great speaker as well. But there are a lot of people saying that he's too close to former President Trump. Any thoughts on that being a restriction?
I think that's a real plus, in my opinion. I think, the Republican Party needs to align themselves with somebody that makes things happen. And yet that Byron Donald is on the immediate approach to the former president. I think, in my opinion, that's a real plus. And I think if you were to probably have people speaking their honest to God truth, I think most people would acknowledge that.
That's a great answer. Thank you for your thoughts on that, Alex. Appreciate you. Let's bounce down to Bob in Woodbridge. Hey, Bob, welcome to the program. You have thoughts on this speaker battle?
Yeah, I do. What we need to do is motivate the House members. And, just like with a jury, when a jury is out for a long time, you got to motivate them a little bit, like don't give them any food. I think we need to get the Secretary of the Treasury to call the head guy, whoever he is, and say, look, if you don't pick a speaker in the next 2 days, the Treasury is not going to honor any government paycheck from anyone in the House of Representatives and is not going to accept it for payment until we get a speaker in place for 5 days. Think that might work?
Well, there are many times that I think in the face of government shutdowns, like we've had threats of government shutdowns, a lot of people have said, well, the government would not shut down if you penalized Congress for shutting it down by holding their paychecks. I don't think they could do that. I don't think the Treasury can do that. But I do think that, if you're hard to do a job, you should do the job. And if you don't do the job, there should be consequences. Unfortunately, there's 2 years before the consequences are felt. It's 2 years before an election in the House and 6 years in the Senate. So in this case, it sounds interesting. I just don't think they're going to be allowed to do it. But you never know, Bob. Maybe something.
So. Yeah, I know. It's just a little tongue in cheek, but yeah,
of course.
It kind of flows out of the idea that what are we paying you to be there to do? It's not this nonsense.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that's why so many of us are frustrated with government on the national level, is that they just don't seem to really be doing anything that helps us or is good for us or the country as a whole. So let's see what happens. In case you would get to pick a speaker, who would it be?
I have no opinion. I just don't have a name. I don't
okay.
know.
That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah.
I think we're going to find out.
Well,
Go
we
ahead.
will. Hey, thanks for an entertaining ride home.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Get home safe. It's almost time to get out of here, and that was fast. Mike Opelka is my name. If you want to know more, you can go to pureopelka.com and see what I've been up to or what I'm going to be up to. Always enjoy sitting in for Vince. This audience is so smart. And we were talking during the break, and Corey and Anna and I were talking, and Corey just said that Chip Roy has endorsed Byron Donalds for Speaker. So that's a big stinking deal. And that kind of adds some flavor to all of this. But does it really matter? Does the speakership really matter? I mean, if you listen to some of the people out there, they're telling us that the end of the world is coming. The Greta Thunbergs of the world. We only have 5 more years. And AOC's telling everybody that there are people who don't want to have babies because the world is going to end. The planet and the weather are going to stop and be turned off. So if the world is going to end, or if all this war is happening, are you driving the right car? The best doomsday vehicles posted on Study Finds. Number 1, the Jeep Wrangler. I guess that's a good ad, isn't it? Keep yourself steady. That's what I'm telling everybody. And remember, testudo, my friends. Testudo.